Well, hello there, guys. It's Nihilus Chrome, aka Grim Reaper 13-666, back in this biatch. And yeah, the next story I'm gonna read is one chapter called 413 Mulberry Lane, a report with annotations by Twilight Sparkle. It incorporates a sound file. I will probably edit that in when it's needed. And I'm reading it while having a phone call open. So if I say something out of place, it's just me speaking with the person on Skype. I hope it is no biggie to you. I hope you enjoy the fiction. Let's go. Before I start reading, though, there is a little thing about this fanfiction. There are, as it is said in the title, annotations in there. I'm gonna say annotation number x epsilon when it's in the text, and read the annotation then. We shall begin. First, I've seen this place in my dreams. No, that's not quite it. I've never seen this house before in my life. Which is strange, because I walk by it every day on the way to class. Right now, I should be in a seminar for young unicorns, magic safety and all that. Yet Professor Stardust's mandatory attendance policy is the last thing on my mind. If they kicked out every budding unicorn of the occasional show of delinquency, there would be no school for gifted unicorns to begin with. That house. The windows and the curtains muffle the sound of laughter and the clatter of kitchenware. I strain my ears and pick in the windows, but I only see sunlight falling on wooden floors and ribbons of dust dancing in the empty rooms. I pace around the cramped alleyways. There's a gate to the backyard, but it's locked. I peer beneath the curtains and strain my ears. The conversations are unintelligible. Someone's hoofs pass by the bottom of the curtain, and I duck away, hoping I haven't been seen. I lap the house completely, counting the windows. 6 windows on the bottom floor, 8 on the top, all curtained but lit. When I reach the front of the house again, the door opens. I'm already late for class. At least I should have an excuse, I think. I almost walked into a house. Is a crap excuse. I was enchanted by a house and walked in, while ridiculous, at least shows a little investigative spirit. But I don't think it's curiosity that's pulling me forward. As I step towards the door, I feel as if a weight has lifted from my chest. The warmth of the hearth rises from the entrance. I step inside of the smell of fresh bread and sweet rolls and the sound of laughter. "Excuse me," I call in, having only set one hoof in the doorway. "Your door just came open and the fur on the back of my neck stands to no end." Ponies have not feared predation for centuries, perhaps millennia, but my instincts kick in. Maybe it's just a coltish fear of being caught snooping around, because no pony comes to answer me. I hear something upstairs, like the scraping of hoofs on the floor. I want to see more. I wander inside, pulling my flanks over the threshold. A sense of safety comes over me again. Probably just a draft from the street, I think, forcing myself to laugh. Or some pony staring at my big fat rump. My gaze wanders around the parlor. There are 2 cups on the nearby table, each still smelling strongly of fine cider. 2 logs crackle and smoke from within the fireplace, in spite of being a particular warm day in late spring, and provide further illumination to the house. It's bright, so bright that the light had to be coming from somewhere else in the house. Sun rocks are entirely uncommon in Canterlot, but the light is overwhelming. I cannot find a single shadow in this house. A photograph sits on the mantel above the fireplace. The swaying flames make the light dance over the frame, so when I lean closer I realize it's a painting and not a photograph. The 2 ponies are painted in such small, intricate strokes, it seems no different than a photograph. A unicorn mare and an earth pony stallion stand together, snuggling, smiling. Either the painter had a good imagination, or these 2 were way too lovey-dovey. The wood beneath me cracks when I take a step, and I freeze in place. Nearby me, wood explodes so loud it causes my ears to sting. I can't see anything. I squeeze my eyes shut and whip around, trying to run for the open door. Instead, I bump into a large pony's chest. I'm afraid to open my eyes. I tremble with fear and start to back away. "How did you get in here?" I recognize that voice. Not the "I will eat your soul" whisper I was expecting. I open my eyes and heave a deep sigh of relief when I find myself staring up at Celestia. I would rather be in deep trouble than meet whatever my imagination refused to conjure in the concerns of that house. "I asked you a question," she says again, more urgently. The time she grabs my ear like a mother scolding her child. "How did you get in here?" The door was open, I stammer, and only when I hear my voice do I realize just how scared I am. I went to close it, and just thought I'd take a look." She looks at the door again, then back at me. Her eyes are watering. She exhales and turns me around with a wing. "Come with me," she says, more with resignation than scorn. Second. Celestia's not saying anything. Neither is any pony else. The streets are full of staring faces, but even in the castle no one speaks. The guards won't even look at me. We pass one of my classmates, Holy, but he just looks down and hurries away when I lift a hoof. The ceiling seems to get higher when we walk into a part of the castle I've never been in. It must be back towards one of the towers, but when we reach it, we don't go up. We go down a spiral staircase. There's barely enough room for Celestia and I, and the ring of torches heat my face with their magic. At the bottom of the stairs, there's a white wall engraved with diamonds and runes. I barely recognize it from my transmogrification lessons. God damn it. It's one of the magic doors, but this one isn't painted or indicated in any way. Celestia lowers her horn, and a small hole appears. She inserts it, and a spark of magic surges from her through the wall, illuminating a grid of blue lines. Then the walls part and open into a dome-shaped chamber. It reminds me of the stacks in Canterlot Yew, but it's only 1.5 stories tall. There are 5 shelves and books are scattered all over the place. The princess sits me in front of a dark oak table and closes her eyes. I hear the sound of stones scraping on stone. A book floats out with a faint golden aura around it and lands on the table in front of me. "That door doesn't open," she explains. She puts her hoofs on my neck again, but this time it looks like she's trying to comfort me. I wish she hadn't. The kind words, the distant look in her eyes, the way she's touching me, that's when I can no longer pretend I'm not in serious danger. Or to be more precise, no pony can open that door, not even myself. It only opens when it wants to. I thought that ponies lived in that house," I say, puzzled. "No one ever talks about it, and the ponies here love to chat about everything suspicious." "Nothing I say will make any sense," she says. "The only thing that remains of the truth of that house is in this book. I've sent ponies to try to figure it out, but everything I learn only drives me further into uncertainty. You've come into contact with it. Maybe I can help you find the truth before it's too late." "Too late for what?" I jerk up in a panic, but she's already moving. She locks the door to the little library and then retreats to the landing. She produces a scroll and begins writing. After a few minutes, she sees me staring, expecting an answer. "You'll be safe as long as you're here," she says. "I'm not leaving until you've read that cover to cover." No matter how long it takes, I rub the dust off of the cover and stare at the manuscript. The tattered pages look back at me. I feel completely exposed in front of it. Is it the book? Is it the house? Or Celestia? Something is looking right through me. The princess right there on the landing. She's not looking my way, but I know she's observing my every move, every breath. The most powerful pony in Equestria, my beloved princess, keeping me in her fortress. I should feel safe, but she already feels 1,000 miles away. All I can do is read and hope that everything turns out all right. Chapter 3. 413 Mulberry Lane. A report. with further annotations by Twilight Sparkle. Annotation 1. Princess Celestia has requested that I visit this house while it's still accessible. She gave me this report and suggested that I make annotations to it as I investigate. When I suggested providing a second manuscript, she insisted I continue this one. The book makes no sense to me. I feel uneasy reading it, but I will respect her wishes. The house in question is numbered the last on its street, sitting on the western intersection of where Mulberry Lane and Canterlot Street intersect. Records in the Canterlot archives indicate that it was constructed roughly a century ago, placing it in line with the rest of the homes built on Mulberry Lane. Annotation 2. I've included the blueprints in the back of this report. The architect Sturdy Pines was notable for his contributions to the construction of several Canterlot communities, but there is no indication that he utilized any magic or was involved with any unusual activity in his lifetime. He has no criminal record, and his profile as a city official is clean, except for a single citation during Canterlot's short-lived Prohibition era. The house contains 2 floors with rooms listed as follows. First floor, a parlor and sitting room, a combination kitchen and dining room, a water closet, a den. Second floor, a master bedroom, a water closet adjoining the hallway and the master bedroom, 2 smaller bedrooms of identical dimensions, 1 storage room. In addition to these features, there is also a back door which leads to a fenced-in area. Small backyard enclosures are not uncommon in Canterlot, where outdoor space is at a premium. Interviews with the neighbors suggest that the house has been occupied with recent memory, and many seem to suggest that a family of unicorns currently resides there. When asked who lived there, though, the neighbors confessed they didn't know. Further inquiries, though were met with confusion, eventually resulted in a termination of the conversation. Elaborating that our investigations were ordered by royalty resulted in no information. Anything we can learn is going to have to come from the house itself. Annotation 3. These blueprints on the back are inaccurate. I am forced to assume that in the last 100 years, some pony has expanded the upstairs storage into a 3rd bedroom. At the time we made our first investigation to the house, our team consisted of 4 ponies. Glimmer Crescent, unicorn, male, age 35. Tenured professor in magical forensics. This assignment was given to me after a glowing recommendation from my department head. No family in Canterlot. Thunder Aria, unicorn, male, age 19. One of my students. Although he's currently studying magic and harmonics, he serves as my teaching assistant in introductory conjurations. Volunteered to be a part of the investigation. Celestia questioned his lack of experience, but I can vouch for his cautious nature and ability to follow instructions. There's no pony I'd rather have assisting me anywhere, in the lab or on the field. Cloudgust, Pegasus, female, age 21. Works night shift on the Canterlot weather team. Celestia insisted that our team contained all 3 ponies, so I put out a bulletin. Cloud answered, I'm not sure what a Pegasus is going to be able to do indoors, but I won't turn down a level-headed and helping hooves. Apple Tart, Earth Pony, female, age 16. Resident from Ponyville. When I told Princess Celestia I needed an architect, she sent a summons immediately. The next day, Apple Tart arrived. The last thing I was expecting was some kid from the boonies, but she knows her stuff. Prodigy doesn't begin to describe it. I just hope her excitable nature doesn't lead me to any accidents. Chapter 4. The Parlor. Annotation 4. There isn't enough room in the margins for me to report my own investigations. I will append at the end of the manuscript my own full report. In spite of all that we're told, we have no trouble gaining entry to the house. The door isn't even locked. In addition, all of the lamps in the house are either lit or magically activated. Appletart calls for any pony that might be inside at the time, but the only response is a constant flicker of light. She declares that she's going to look around to make sure that no one is snooping around before running off into the kitchen. Rather than go after her, I decide to start our investigation. The parlor measures 45 feet by 30 feet by adjoining doors to the den, the kitchen and the front exterior. One window on the western wall and another on the southern. 2 sofas sit in an L shape, and between them is a single flat table. There are only 3 objects in the room, 2 empty mugs on the table, and a picture sitting on a shelf on the far wall. Annotation 5. Glimmer's report doesn't indicate the fireplace or the torn paint. I understand the paint, but how could he overlook the fireplace? It's in the blueprints. It strikes me as odd. Why would they leave these things here? Annotation 6. Appletart later informed me that the mugs were ruined for drinking because someone had left cider in them for so long, leaving them with a permanent scent and smell. She seemed particularly upset about this for some reason. There's evidence that the house is occupied, but no one has lived here in recent memory. I can't quite puzzle it together. Just being in that house makes my horn tingle. Arya feels it too, but intuition and instinct aren't going to give us any answers. We pushed the sofas to the sides of the room and began to set up a mobile laboratory with the following equipment. 4 magic focuses, crystalline variety, placed at the corners of the room. 1 crystalline polarity indicator, 1 enchanted prism, and 1 thermometer. In spite of all that, our equipment doesn't detect any magic on any wavelength. The only useful reading we got was from the thermometer, which we calculated indicated that the room was approximately 86 degrees. For some reason, this observation disturbed Gust. She seemed convinced that the house was too hot, considering external temperatures and any heat that the lights would have been giving off. My impression of weather ponies as brainless cloud haulers were immediately shattered when, using my notebook and some quick reading inside and outside of the house, she showed me exactly why it should have been only 71 degrees inside. Annotation 7. My readings are identical to Glimmer's, but refined formulas suggest that the difference would have been 13.5 degrees, not 15. The only possible explanation is that the heat is coming from elsewhere in the house. Although I'm not satisfied with the thoroughness of our investigation of the parlor, it's prudent for us to move on. I can hear Appletart's hoofbeat upstairs and call out to her, informing her that we will be moving into the den. She does not respond. My equipment seems useless, but I gather it anyway just in case there are any readings in other rooms. A great cold was looking in the window and ran off when I turned around. I laughed to find that my heart was pounding. A royal forensics team was investigating a house in a busy neighborhood. Of course they were going to look. 5. The den. We can tell without the thermometer that the excess heat was coming from this room. The temperature is fluctuating around 102 degrees and won't go down, even with introduction of air conditioning and other weather aids. The source was easy to find. There's a Celestia, a hole doesn't even begin to describe it. Annotation 8. I've been asked to describe the hole in the floor. First strata visible is the wooden floor and a bit of foundation. Beyond that it fades inexplicably into stone, opal, if I had to guess, and continues that pattern as far as I can see. The room is approximately 60 feet by 60 feet and slightly descends towards the center. That makes the blueprints off by at least 20. 2 more couches, a pile of cushions. There are empty vases stacked up around the room. The most prominent feature in this room is the hole. My magic equipment still picks up nothing, but Arya and I can feel something here. I continue to use it anyway. I should just check it down to the hole. The hole. It's only about a foot in diameter. The light of the room extends about 50 feet down before I cannot see any further. The hole is the source of the heat and humidity in the house. I drop a bit in and listen for a sound. There never is an impact. Next I drop in a small gem with a light enchantment. The light shrinks to a point and takes approximately 10 minutes to disappear. Given the rate of descent, I can only guess that this hole actually intersects with the Canterlot Caverns. The depth still seems impossible. I threw I threw one of my focuses down in frustration. Still no readings. Apple Tart is back. I asked her if she had found anything. She says she checked every room. They were all empty. The sunlight surprised her. She thought it was night. She thought we should go home. We've barely even started. It's my fault. I've told her to investigate the hole. I thought she could explain the purpose, or at least its construction. I didn't know she was going to stick her damned head inside of it. Apple Tart is stuck. The hole shouldn't be big enough for her in the first place, but she manages to get into her shoulders before she can't move. She struggles and kicks her legs. Cloud laughs for a minute, and then she's silent. The three of us try to pull her out, but she won't budge. It's as if the edge of the hole has shrunk and closed around her shoulders. Then she starts wiggling in further. I can't make out what she's saying. She screams. The hole is moving and pulling her in. Gravity does the rest. We pull, we apply lubricant, but that only seems to make her fall another foot. Arya and I try a teleportation spell. We try everything, but nothing works. I'm not waiting for her to disappear before sending an emergency scroll to Celestia. Courtiers be damned. While we wait for the guards to arrive, all we can do is watch Apple Tart sink further into the hole. She seems to have stopped struggling, aside from the occasional kick. Still no rescue team. I can't see her anymore, but I can hear her moving. Arya suggests dropping a light. Dropping a light stone on her butt will only injure her. No light in the hole, no sound. Where the hell is Celestia? Cloudgus is going to the palace herself. All Arya and I can do is stare at the hole and pray that Apple survives. Apple Tart is back. She opens the back door about the same time as Celestia arrives with a full squad of guards. We're dumbstruck. Arya and I grab her and start crying. This just makes her more confused and a little scared. According to Apple, she just looked up and she was outside. She thought she had been daydreaming. She confessed she's prone to this with some embarrassment, and had simply spaced out. We ask her if she remembers anything about the hole. She doesn't. The sight of it makes her feel nauseous, though. I investigate the backyard. Just a few scarce feet of grass and flowers and high fences around. I can hear the afternoon rush beginning outside, but the fencing blocks it all from view. A few pegs I shift the clouds above. There's no hole in the house nor in the yard. No magic, and no trace of anything I threw down the hole. Celestia tells me to end the investigation for the day. I can't agree more. After some discussion, we pay Apple Tart and send her back home. I don't understand how she's alive and with us. I can't let her do something impulsive like that again. Celestia seems reluctant to stop the investigation, but doesn't force us to continue. If we can't get into the house tomorrow, then that will be that. I don't want to come back, but I have to know. 6. The second day. When I reach for the door, I wish it doesn't open. But it slides open, as if the hinges were greased that morning. I ask the team if they are willing to enter into the house again. They agree. There are only 2 rooms we haven't investigated on the bottom floor. We open the water closet and check it out. Nothing out of the ordinary, 2 candle-like lamps keeping the place lit, clean water. I get excited when I detect my first hint of magic. It's small, but it's something. Turns out it's just an olfactory illusion. The room smells like roses. How ridiculous! I have to leave because the smell is actually getting too strong to bear. Annotation 10. I think I understand what was going on. Glimmer's instruments helped read magic by redirecting and focusing it on a stable point so it can be analyzed. Somehow, though, they were magnifying the intensity of the magic instead of reading it. I have to take this into account in my own studies. The kitchen is 15 feet by 30 feet, not accounting for the staircase, which is more in line with the outer dimension of the house. All of the cupboards are full of old dishes and cookware. There's an immense amount of it. The long table takes up most of this room. If Apple Tart were here, maybe she could tell us about its construction. It's a polished wood, looks like cherry, and has intricate carvings on the end. The letters PS are engraved beneath it, along with a vine-embossed crest. In addition, it looks like this table could seat at least 15 ponies. It seems a little absurd for a house that could only comfortably house about 6. Arya keeps saying he's hearing things. No one else seems to be able to hear them, though. We shouldn't dally, but he thinks we should check it out. He was kind enough to load his harmonics equipment into my pack, so I helped him set up. Cloudgust is becoming restless. She asks if she can roam around. I think about what happened to Apple, and I tell her no. She seemed resigned. After 5 minutes, she leaves anyway, without saying anything, while I'm too busy aligning a crystal focus to stop her. Although Arya has a better grasp on harmonics than I do, he's still rubbish at setting up his equipment. It's not a fool's first magic kit. You can't just throw things into 4 corners and hope that they work out. I have to pinpoint the precise centers of sound in this room, which even with the aid of fully functioning magic is difficult. Even more so with a prodigal nuisance breathing down your neck. I see him to find Gust while I calibrate the equipment. She's still on the first floor, and the 2 of them have good enough heads on their shoulders. The turning gems are picking up something. A reading in this house. For a moment I consider recording them without Arya's presence, but I know he wouldn't appreciate it. Then I realize that he, too, has been gone for a long time. I'm going to have to retrieve him. I check the parlor first, hoping that they haven't gone into that damned room. But from there I can hear that they have. They're crying and groaning, and something pops in my head. I switch to adrenaline and instincts and race into the den. Whatever has happened to them, I need to get there in time. I can't believe it. I can't believe they're mating. In this room. In this room of all places. I burst in on them, expecting to find some otherworldly terror, and instead I find Arya on top of Gust, spasming and bleating like a drunken manticore. I demand an explanation from the guard. Why didn't he stop them? Without looking up, he asked me what exactly he was supposed to do about it. I don't really have an answer. I don't want to know, but I have to ask the guard. What happened? He turns his staring eyes to me as if they were daft. As if everything happening in front of us didn't entirely explain itself. Annotation 11. No wonder he thought I was an idiot. I am an idiot. The combination of light and heat in that room is in line with the natural signals that bring a mare into estrus. I didn't think it could happen that suddenly. I wish I hadn't exploded at them. I wish I had thought better before bringing her here. But the work must be done. That's not good enough for me, but he's not a scientist. I abandoned those poor guards to their duties and returned to the kitchen. The crystals still glimmer in harmony, perfectly in sync with whatever traces are present. I begin the process of translating them back into a form that we can hear and understand. Gust and Arya return. I warn them that if they leave my side again, I will dissolve the investigation and send them home. They make no protest. Arya is exhibiting guilt and finishes the rest of the work with speed and precision. He casts a spell on the central apparatus, and it begins to play back the imprinted sounds. It's scratchy, but the contents of the echoes are clear. A piano was played in this room. The tones are reminiscent of early Canterlot composers, as imitated by an amateur. Symphony just playing around with sections from memory. Granulation and degradation of the sound is there, as to be expected. Arya seems to find the music soothing, but something about it unsettles me. Why this song? Why is this moment in time so important? Arya runs for a few more calculations and tells me that the sounds must have been echoing in that room for 200 years. That's impossible. The house hadn't existed for barely over a century. He runs his numbers again, much to my relief, confesses he made a mistake. The song is actually 500 years old. Twilight's note. I looked through Canterlot's genealogical archives on a hunch. Gust and Arya were wed and had their first child the year that this report was made. I think some of their descendants actually live in Ponyville, but I'm not going to bring this up with them. I can't imagine I have anything to gain by doing so. 7. The book beneath me is an inert object. Its contents may as well be blank. It is little more than a cushion on my head. In spite of my anxiety, I fall asleep for a few moments, my horn pinched in its bindings. Some time later, some pony touches my shoulder and gives it a shake. I feel the warm touch and the jostle, and I sit up straight. I look around, hoping to find Celestia scolding me for drifting off. The library is empty. I look again, but I can't find any pony. "Princess?" I squeak. The lamps of the library flicker and go dim for a moment. I hear hoofsteps. Then the princess steps out from behind the 5th bookshelf, a pair of texts hovering beside her. "Yes?" she asks. "Have you found anything, student?" I shake my head. I'm trembling. When she sees this, she puts the book down and comes over beside me. She pushes my head up with her snout and lays a wing over me. It's different from what I felt just a moment ago. I don't want her to go again. "What does your cutie mark mean?" she asks me suddenly. I smile. "A couple of years ago I discovered I had a particular knack for making things glow," I explain. "One night there was a storm. I was alone in my room and I got scared, so I lit up my whole bedroom. The ceilings, the wall, all of my toys, and the bed and everything." I laugh. My parents were so angry they had to call a castle magician to disenchant everything. But that's when I realized I wanted to learn how to enchant things. I want to make the world shine. That's when I got this glowy cutie mark. Princess Celestia frowns. Why would she disapprove of my story? Sure, it wasn't as exciting as some ponies, but I don't think it's that bad. She won't stop staring at my thing, though. I look over my shoulder and shift so I can see it. There is no glowing bulb on my hide. Instead, there's a pair of musical notes. I can't take this anymore. I can't stop crying. Celestia shelters me in one of her wings. I'm not sure how long it takes. Whether it is inside of it, it's got its teeth in me. It's changing me. And I don't know what to do. All the princess can tell me is to keep reading. Maybe there will be something. I don't want to read it. I tell her I don't. She says there's no other way. She promises she won't leave me until we find an answer. She turns the page. 8. The 2nd floor. Our investigation of the 2nd floor are much simpler. There are 2 small bedrooms which are devoid of any furnishings or particular qualities. The only peculiar note is that each window faces westward, towards the sun, towards the blue sky. There shouldn't be any sky there. The adjacent townhouse should be visible from these windows, but it's not. We take recordings in each room. Nothing jumps out, nothing of any notice. The master bedroom has a queen-sized canopy bed. On one of the knobs is the same symbol we saw etched into the table downstairs. Annotation 12. I sent sketches of the mark to Appletart and around the question libraries. Apple suggested that it resembles a trade mare's mark, but neither she nor any in the royal office can identify it. I can only conclude that this was a personal design that never left the household. Annotation 13. After having some time to look over Glimmer's sketches, I recognize the geometry. This kind of mark is used in the older designs of powerful artifacts and royal signets, about 500 years ago. Excepting forgeries, there are only 2 possibilities. The mark either belongs to a powerful magician, or someone of a royal family asked Princess Celestia and Princess Luna if they could identify the family of origin, and neither of them knew. I'm about ready to end this investigation. Cloudgust notices a strange shift in the airflow, though. She follows it and finds a false floorboard. Beneath it is a plain wooden box, and inside the box is a collection of letters. I've included these letters in a separate bundle, although they do not contribute to my final assessment of this house. 9. Conclusion. I've taken all the readings I can. I've measured and made note of every room. I've applied the expertise of every pony available to Canterlot, and I can only come to one conclusion. This house is impossible. It hasn't hurt any pony. Annotation 14. If only Glimmer knew. Did he choose to ignore the 4th room in that house? or did it simply not exist at the time? There's no comfort in either possibility, but Celestia, if you want me to find the truth, I have to go inside. I have to tell you what I see. It hasn't hurt any pony that we know of, but that doesn't make it any less dangerous. The magic that we can detect does not resemble any unicorn magic or any other kind that we can identify. Its dimensions, its physical qualities, its very nature is an abomination. I can't imagine what can be gained from this information other than to understand that something is very wrong with this house. My recommendation to the ground is simple. Destroy it, disenchant it, tear it down, and erase its existence from the face of Equestria. The risk of such a powerful entity unchecked in the streets of Canterlot is not worth any knowledge that might be gained from it. I'm closing this report, and I am never going to look at it or that place ever again. 10. The second investigation, led by Twilight Sparkle. One can imagine my trepidation when it comes to entering a house of such magical intensity. In all my readings of Glimmer's notes, I haven't been able to shake off this bad feeling. I feel like such a fool writing it down, a superstitious filly, but it's like I'm being watched. Like something cold is working its way up my spine and sitting on the back of my neck, just where I can't see or reach. But Princess Celestia has asked for me personally, and so I go to the house. My friends are with me, as is a pair of royal guards. The door is open when we arrive. The parlor is warm and well lit. At first it seems to be identical to what Glimmer's notes indicate. Then it occurs to me that all 9 of us are fitting easily into the room. Applejack helps me take some quick measurements. We double-check them just to make sure that we didn't make a mistake. And then the third time, because we didn't want to believe it was true. The parlor is 40 feet by 35 feet. There are 2 cups on the table that smell faintly of tea. Fluttershy remarked that it was probably the same kind of camomile that she uses. The painting that Glimmer described is still sitting on the mantel. It's a magnificent piece of work, but something about it bothers me. It's rare to see a family portrait like this without the cutie marks visible in some way. There's no way to tell what family those 2 belong to. The gap in the Canterlot Munical records is vexing. Unless we find some other clue, this may forever remain a mystery. Working off of Glimmer's old notes, I'm able to cast a more delicate spell to detect the magic here. It doesn't take much effort. This place is amplifying every one of my abilities. The sensation is somewhat thrilling, and that alone makes me nervous. I confirm that the light and heat of the house is of magical origin. A somewhat pointless confirmation. I can't find the source, though. I'm not affixed to any object. I don't even think it belongs to the house itself. The source must be somewhere else. I'm not sure I want to find it. I didn't want to go into the parlor, but I can't let the others know I'm too scared. The girls don't believe half what was written in this manuscript, but we still didn't want to see it. The hole. It's only a few inches in diameter, and the air coming out feels cold. There's no way a pony would possibly fit her hoof in there, let alone her face. We had to drag Pinky away to keep her from trying, though. As for my magic, nothing I cast returns any reading. It's as if the magic itself is being absorbed by the hole. Rainbow became incredibly uncomfortable and went back into the parlor in spite of my protests. But I'm kind of glad she did. It gave me an excuse to move everyone out of the den as soon as possible. I could swear there was another guard with us, but these 2 deny anything. I blame it on the usual heat and decide to move on. The yard is calming in a way. Maybe it's being able to stand out beneath the sun to hear the din of the Canterlot market just beyond the fence boards. It reminds me that there's a sane world out there, and somehow gives me the courage to investigate the rest of the house. The dining room. We are nearing the end of the notable explorations of Glimmer's crew. I take a recording of the room, but it doesn't turn up the same as before. It's mostly just magical interference, but I'm sending it to Celestia anyway. I almost didn't report this section of the house, but Rarity got into the cupboards and remarked at length of the dinnerware there. She said that the particular mineral used in the ceramics is only found in the mountains of the far north, and the wine designs are reminiscent of those documented in the old unicorn kingdoms. By her notion, the entire set was probably passed down from early immigrants to the valet and are priceless. I'm scared, but I'm glad my friends are here with me. I thank them to their expertise, but the fact is, I don't think I'd have the courage to go on without them. I know you want to know the truth, but part of me is hoping that I don't find it. That the second floor is empty, and that we can forget all about this. I'm sorry, Celestia. I'm letting my primal fears overcome me. This too is part of my education, isn't it? 11. We can see the second floor hallway from the bottom. The stairway turns twice along the perimeter of the house, and then follows the upper corridors. I reach the top and turn to the others, only to find that they are still trying to ascend. For each step they take, 2 more seem to stretch out in front of them. Something did not want my friends to reach the top of the stairs. Fluttershy wants to turn back. I tell her that we have to do this. I ask her if she wants us to walk her home. She doesn't have to be here if she's scared. She won't leave us. Eventually, Rainbow Dash flies to the top of the stairs and the whole climb snaps back into normal space. My friends are still panting and exhausted when we reach the top floor. It should be mid-afternoon, but the purple light of dusk shines through the windows when we arrive at the second floor. I glanced out the windows at the street outside. It should be bustling with the after-work rush, but it's almost entirely empty. A grey cold passes by outside. I don't know why, but it occurs to me to count our group again, to make sure we're all here. No one is missing. We're all cramped into that hallway. I'll start to miss the generous space of the house below. The floor seems unusually hollow, and the sounds of us shuffling and clomping across the corridor fills it with a dull, distant rumbling. I can't understand why Glimmer didn't describe the rooms at length. The first door on the right leads to a small bedroom, practically a loft. A bed just big enough for a young pony occupies an indent in the wall. There's a mobile above with the various symbols and marks of Celestia and Luna. There's a bookshelf, but it's unfortunately devoid of any books. It's a bit difficult to measure the room because of the cubby the bed is in, but we guess it's roughly 10 by 15 feet. The second door on the right leads to another bedroom. So far, these seem more like family rooms than ones set aside for guests. There's not much left to look at in this one, though being in there put Applejack in a melancholy mood. There's a third door after this one, and the room is much larger. Unlike the others, it's immaculately clean. A single lamp on the far wall, lights the room with remarkable ease. There's a second piano in the corner and a collection of books on musical theory and collection of old folk songs. There's a series of notes painted on the walls. Fluttershy starts humming along. Sometimes I forget that she has classical training. Something about the aria is off though, and when she's done she looks like she wants to cry. Rainbow Dash wraps a wing over her and walks her out. She asks to leave. I tell her that I can, but I need to finish the investigation. We're almost done, just one more room. The master bedroom. It's empty. Identical to Glimmer's report down to the dimension. This window shows the afternoon sun and the townhouse next door. There's no magic, nothing more to record. I'm not sure what else to add to this manuscript. The mysterious of the house seems impenetrable, but the original author was onto something. This place is potentially dangerous. Right now, I'm just glad that we're able to leave. We file out one by one. When I reach the edge of the stairs, I just have to look back. I have to look at the end of the hallway, and at the end of it, I see a single closet door. I know it wasn't there before. I'm sorry, I have to see what's inside. I have to know. 12. Everyone finally breaks down and begs me to leave. Even the guards seem anxious to get back to the palace. I laugh and tell them that it's just a closet. All it'll take is just a peek and we can leave. I put a half on the door. It's cold to the touch and I recoil. Rainbow Dash moves towards me and I know she's about to drag me off, so I fight my better instincts and open the door. Inside is an empty closet, 4 feet wide and 2 feet deep. We laugh a little at our foolishness. Then I notice that there's another door at the back of this closet, almost identical to the first. As I step in, I feel a chill come over me. I open the second door. Inside is another closet. just as wide but twice as deep. Unlike any other room in the house, there's no magical light, no magical heat. Before Rainbow can intervene, I open the second door. It's colder inside. Now the length is 8 feet. The fourth is 16. The fifth is 32. The space this closet is occupying is impossible. It would have run into an adjacent house by now. But another door awaits in front of me. Rainbow Dash and now Applejack grab me by either side. They tell me I have to go back. They tell me it's dangerous. I say I know. But I have to do this. For Celestia. She wouldn't send me here if she didn't know that I would be okay. I want to believe it, but I'm not sure if Celestia understood what she was sending us into. It's enough to make them let me go, though. I open another door, and the distance doesn't double. It's another 30-some feet to the end. The truth is, I just have to know what's on the other side. It's almost if it goes to a tether in my heart, and it's pulling me closer, and I can't bear the thought of turning away. I lit my horn with magic and throw open another door, and then another. They open ahead of me like parting leaves, and I begin to gallop into the increasing darkness. Rainbow Dash and Applejack don't pursue me. I can hear them protesting and calling for me, but they are afraid. I'm afraid too, but I keep going. Now the doors are getting closer together until the space between them is only mere inches. The doors are getting bigger, heavier. Some are even locked. I tear right through them with my magic and continue forward. It has to be at least 100 doors later. I swing the next one open, and inside I don't find another closet, but instead a room completely engulfed in blackness. I look back over my shoulder, and I can see Applejack and Rainbow Dash as figures in the distance. The rest of the ponies are further beyond them, barely visible in the telescoping light of the house. I call out and tell them what I found at the end, and that I won't go out of sight. In spite of being chilly as a winter's night, the room is inviting. I step inside and try to look around. All I can glimpse are the cracks and knots in the old wooden walls. The rest is concealed in shadow. I step further in and begin to recognize the dimensions. They are about identical to the master bedroom in the house proper. The window is exactly where I expected it to be. The covers are drawn over the bed, and I notice a lump on top of it. I draw closer, holding my breath. I move my hoofs as quietly as possible. Little more than a whisper of air moving in the room. It's them. The ponies from the painting. They lay in bed together. It doesn't seem like they are breathing, but there's no decay on either of them. They can't possibly be dead. They look so peaceful together, so happy. She lays on her forelegs with one rig draped over him and enveloping him entirely. I had to double-check my vision. A wing and a horn. The mare is an alicorn. As soon as the thought enters my head, her eyes snap open. I stand still and hold my breath. She just stares at me without expression, as if I'm demanding the answer to an unfathomable question. I don't think. I bolt back to the door, but I know it's too late. Before I even move, I can hear the doors slamming shut. The sound of Rainbow Dash and Applejack screaming and pounding at them grows fainter and fainter as each tiny space closes, and each one seems to spring away from the others as if the house expanded at impossible speeds. The window, it's my only hope. I turn back around, and every lamp in the room flames on at once, flooding it with the light of day. My eyes burn, but I look. Celestia, why do I look? Why do I have to see the shapes of them, almost living, almost like dolls? I only catch a glimpse, but I knew they were there from the moment I stepped in the room. Dozens of them. Celestia, the mare's magic is overtaking me. I rush to the glass and yank the pane up. I can feel her eyes on me, and the grip on my mind becoming tighter as I move to escape. But there is no escape. I have one hoof over the sill when I see what lays outside. Not Canterlot, but a painted landscape of Canterlot stretches before me. It's beautiful, if somber. Ancient houses and timeless parapets of Castle Canterlot. Dark blues and lush white pastels paint the way from Mulberry Lane up to the main road. And in the night sky golds and whites fill the landscape, lighting it up with the moon and stars. But there were no ponies to bask in its glow. My mind drifts back towards the room and starts to numb under the warm sensation filling my chest. A wing comes gently across the back of my neck,
and feathers moves to hold me, and I understand. She is the one who called me here. I call her mother. The shapes in the room shift. I am taken. All this but for the moon, the simple blessing of the moon in that painting of the sky, casting its light through the window and onto the floor. Darkness swirls beneath me, and I feel hoofs grasping at my own from below, and they pull with all their might. My stomach wrenches, and a dizziness overtakes me, for I am pulled through the image of the moon itself, and I black out. 13. Were it not for Princess Luna, I would not be here to write these lines. She sensed my peril through the moon. Yes, it was a painting of a moon, but it was also magic, and it tapped into a magic that belonged to her. With that she reached me. With that she pulled me free. When I come to, I'm in Luna's chambers. My friends are all around me and are crying when I wake up. I start to cry too. I embrace each of them and promise I'll never go away again. I know you asked me to finish this report. I won't let them see it. But I don't want to be alone either. Luna is watching over me constantly while I recount what I can remember. How can I forget? It's seared into my brain. The mare moved. The stallion never did. The others, it's done. I've fulfilled your request to the best of my abilities. I've made as many connections as I can. I've reported everything I saw and understand. I don't understand, but I do agree with Glimmer. The house should be destroyed before it takes another pony. And now that I've fulfilled your request, I must make my own. It's a selfish request. I mean, you may never forgive me, but I'm begging you. Though I'm here, I can still feel her. I can still feel that house living in my mind, and I will never truly escape it. Erase my memory. Erase any trace that I've ever been there, and never speak of it again. Free me of this burden. I will do anything you ever ask. Please just grant me this one mercy. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle. 14. I closed the cover of the report and stared at it for minutes. Celestia is still there with me, waiting for an answer. Did it work? I asked. Twilight, is she? Twilight is all right, says Celestia, hanging her head. I'll never forgive for what I've put her through, but she's safe and she sleeps at ease. Her life goes on. I push the book away from me. But then maybe that's the answer, I say. Erase the memory of that house from me. You can do that, right? Yes, Celestia says, hesitating. But it's painful and invasive. Meddling with a pony's mind is something one should never do. My eyes are still wet with tears. It may be the only way, I say. Please, please, I don't want to go there. I don't want to see that place again. Cast a spell so that I don't even know it exists. Take it away from me like you took it from Twilight. It has to be the way. She hugs me tight. I can't help but wonder if she had me read the whole account so that I would ask her for that. So I could ask her for the act that she could never offer on her own. I ask and she grants me that I wish. I feel the gentle caress of magic, and then everything begins to slip away. The book, the castle, the house on Mulberry Lane. Every last detail and sensation slips away from me, and I feel a cool emptiness filling the space it leaves behind. 15. I race home with my book bag tucked against my flank. The whole day is a bit of a blur, but I'm just happy to be out of classes and going home. My professor loaded me down with homework full of theory and classical exercises, but I'm sure that I'll be able to finish it and still have time to go play with Holly afterward. Mother opens the door when I scoot up onto the doorstep and smiles at me. She brushes me inside with a wing. Welcome home, dear, she says. How was school? Stardust is a real slave driver, I say, tossing my bag onto the floor. She scolds me with a tap of her wing and then hangs it up by the mantel. I have to be able to play all the classic scales by the end of the weekend. Can you believe it? She laughs and nudges me along. He's just pushing you because he knows you're full of potential, she says. Every day I can't be more proud of you. I blush and hurry onwards, hoping to hide my flushed cheeks by stuffing my face with bread. My siblings won't let me live it down, but I can't complain. Home is always lively and full of joy. Hot meals, a cozy bed, and a room of my own, and a full night run of Canterlot at my doorstep. I have the best parents in the world, The only ponies they love more than us are each other. The rest practically flies by. I graduate top of my class. I get a position in the Royal Canterlot Orchestra, and even go so far as to assist in the teaching of magical fundamentals. Holly and I eventually settle down together. When I first come home that day, I was feeling a puzzling sense of loss, like something important had been stolen from me. But the longer time goes on, the more I settle into normal rhythm. It's so full of life and music and love. I couldn't be happier.
So guys, this was not your run-of-the-mill horror fan fiction, but more as I would call it psycho horror. It's kind of complicated towards the ending, but I read several theories under the fanfiction in the comments, and one particular struck me as fitting, and it is that the main character is kind of still in the house, and the house is giving the illusion of Celestia and everything, and the book, so that unicorn of at the beginning gets his memory cleaned by the house, and then lives inside the house. There's several things that point to that, like the life of Canterlot at my doorstep fits Mulberry Lane. The couple the main character describes at the ending as his parents seems similar to the ones in the picture in the house, so I go with that theory on that. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was something quite different, and I like to see you next time. See you.